Hello and welcome back to the Data Privacy Lawyer. Welcome to the channel. My name is Funmi Owolabi and I'm the principal attorney at this firm. So today we're going to be looking at a cookie policy. I'm going to be doing a series on the channel. We're going to be looking at all types of different privacy documentation that businesses place on their external facing website. Now, the most typical one is the privacy policy, but there's also cookie policies that are growing in popularity with organizations. The other policy that is really familiar is the end user license agreement. I want us to take a look at that in the future. And I also want us to start taking a look at the AI policies that are existing with organizations. So let's take a look at the cookie policy for P&J Ellis. Now, this is a very interesting cookie banner. We use cookies to ensure that we give you the best experience on the website. If you continue to use the site, we'll assume you're happy with it. This is a very dated cookie banner, and I just want to give insight into the fact that this site is hosted in the United Kingdom. Now, there are data protection obligations in the United Kingdom that mirror those in the European Union. And traditionally, we should always be presented with a cookie banner 1. And 2, the cookie banner that's being reflected here doesn't give us any opportunity to consent. We can click OK, but we don't have the opportunity to manage our preferences. So at this point, we don't know which cookies they're providing to give us the best experience on their site. Are they necessary ones? And do we have the opportunity to manage our preferences? This language, if you continue to use this site, we will assume you're happy with it. As far as I'm concerned, this is very dated language. We really should be presented with a cookie banner to be able to manage our preferences. Let's take a look at whether or not there's a date to this. There's no date that's been placed on when this was last reviewed or updated. So that would be something that businesses should definitely keep in mind. Let's go to the top. Please read this privacy policy. So let's talk about this. At the top of this page, it says cookies policy, right? But as we continue to read, we see, please read this privacy policy. So when you're a business and you're drafting something for the customers and consumers that you have and the World Wide Web, make sure that you're able to align what the policy is and what you say it is, because I think that this language should be going on the actual privacy policy. It may be that they've combined the two, but this title is not reflective of what's been written here, and these are generally a bit different and they're generally separate. You can put them together. The issue here is that the title of this document and the URL says this is a cookie policy. So I anticipated that we were going to see cookies here, but if it was in fact that this is a mixture of cookies and the privacy policy, that should be reflected in the title, because this is a bit confusing and consumers would find this confusing too. So let's keep taking a look at this. Definitions and interpretation. Cookie law. Cookie law means the relevant parts of the Privacy and Electronic Communications Regulation. So I'll tell you something. When you're providing definitions, make sure that you're really reviewing what the law actually is, right? We need to make sure that the law is articulated as the law is. They've put this in brackets to indicate when they say cookie law, they're relating or they're discussing the relevant parts of the Privacy and Electronic Communications Regulation. Most consumers don't understand what that means. And this is a cookie policy for PJ and Ellis Limited consumers. They don't understand what the relevant parts of this law is. So that could be confusing. And one of the things you want to avoid as a business is you want to avoid being confusing and not being transparent. If you are going to put that you're discussing relevant parts, you need to actually list the relevant parts, because some consumers would actually consider the Privacy and Electronic Communications Regulation as the cookie law, and it's not the cookie law. So that's something. I like the definition of personal data, because a cookie, again, is personal data. That's really good. What does this policy cover? Again, they continued to reference this privacy policy, right? Even though they've put at the top cookie policy. So there needs to be alignment on whether or not this is a privacy policy or whether or not it's a cookie policy, because it seems like there's been discussion of both. And when your business is drafting this, you need to talk to your privacy counsel about how you want to structure the policies you place on your website, because you don't want to be confusing, you don't want to be misleading, you don't want to be deceptive. And your privacy counsel is going to look at your business. They're going to look at what types of personal data you process, whether or not your site even has cookies, and then they're going to make a determination whether the documents should be separate or together. Our site contains links to other websites. Please note we have no control over how your data is collected, stored, or used by other websites. Okay. Your rights. Okay, this is interesting. This language traditionally lives in a privacy policy. It traditionally doesn't live in a cookie policy. So this is, again, very interesting. What data do we collect? Name, business, company name, contact, web browser type, operating system, a list of URLs starting with a referring site, your activity on our site, and the site you exit. I think it's interesting that this has been named a cookie policy, but privacy policy has been listed throughout. And when we see the types of data that are collected, we don't really see insights into the cookies. Where they've listed the data they collect, depending on the use of their site, there's no cookies listed here. You need to articulate your privacy practices accurately. Your policies to your users needs to reflect what you're truly doing, because if a consumer was to look at this section 4 and look at the title, they might be confused about where cookies comes into this entire document. Are they being collected or not? Because they're not listed here. Now they might be listed further below, but I do think it's interesting that they haven't been listed up here. How do we use your data? Providing and managing your access to the site, etc. Analyzing your use of our site. Now this is interesting. I am presuming that this alludes to the usage of cookies, which we really haven't seen very much of yet. Do we share your data? Subject to section 6.2 of what? Section 6.2. I'm presuming 6.2 of the privacy policy. We will not share any of your data with any third parties. We may sometimes contract with third parties to supply services to you on your behalf. Okay, so I'm presuming the section 2 they're referencing here is this one. The reason why I asked which section to 6.2 is because they've also mentioned a couple of laws at the top, like these ones, and they've mentioned relevant parts. Make sure that when you are working as a business, and you are putting out to the organization how you as an organization feel about personal data, you're putting it in a clear and concise manner. How can you control your data? Okay, let's take a look at this, because this has a overlap with cookies. And like I mentioned, we weren't really presented with an accurate cookie banner because cookies are being collected on me as we speak because I selected OK, but I'm not sure which ones they are. And I haven't been able to manage my preferences as it relates to the cookies that are being utilized. So you can control your data when you submit personal data via our site. You may be given options to restrict our use of your data. You may also wish to sign up to one or more of the preference services operating in the United Kingdom. The telephone preference service, the corporate. So this is so interesting. There's no control of cookies that's listed here. I personally think that this is a privacy policy. I feel like this section on the usage of cookies could operate on a different URL. There is a section here about cookies, which we're going to take a look at, but what I really anticipated when I clicked this was I thought it was going to be exclusively a cookie policy. Our site may place and access certain first-party cookies on your computer or device. All cookies used by and on our site are used in accordance with current cookie law. Okay, I want to mention something. There are lots of laws that are applicable to usage of cookies, and it's not just the one that's listed above. And as far as I understand, because this is hosted in the United Kingdom, I don't know all of their operations, but I personally wouldn't tell any business to reference any law as being a cookie law because there's several, and it's likely there's several that apply to your organization, which is why it's so important to retain privacy counsel when drafting these documents. You want to add a level of sophistication that, one, allows you to maintain compliance with the data protection laws, of which the requirement is that you provide notice and you're transparent. And part of that transparency is being transparent about what's going on now, what's happening now, how the laws have changed now. And there are lots of laws that dictate how a business can use cookies, and it's not just the one listed above. So what that tells me is that this is likely outdated. And maybe whoever drafted this didn't really understand what was required, since the banner or the title says cookies, but this is a privacy policy with a section on cookies. And it looks here like they use analytic cookies, functional cookies, targeting cookies, and third-party cookies, of which I, as a consumer of this website right now, wasn't presented the opportunity to opt out of. And these are being collected on me now. So what's happening is my data is being collected without me being given the opportunity to consent to which cookies this site is able to obtain. And this is something that is happening across lots of different industries. It's not just with this site. So I really hope you enjoyed this particular audit. There's a lot of things that need to be changed with this site. I think what's also interesting is they actually have cookie policy and privacy and GDPR policy, but the cookie policy basically is a privacy policy, but this is actually different. But that's also interesting. So if your business is looking for assistance with drafting these public-facing documents, take a look at the description below, and I would love to help your business. I'll see you in another cookie policy audit.